So she is basically intervening between this ongoing issue that deals with two other co-equal branches of government. So those are the only two minor problems there. Well, what did she just do? She said, you know what? I don't want anybody seeing Volume 2 documenting Donald Trump's classified documents crimes, so I am ordering Merrick Garland not to give even a confidential copy for review to the bipartisan leadership of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. That may have been one of the last hopes we had, that, you know, some independent eyes would at least get a look at that report and be able to sort of keep track of Donald Trump's classified documents crimes before President Biden left office and Donald Trump took over. But Judge Cannon put a stop to that. Now, Brian, is there any doubt in our minds that Judge Cannon all along has been angling for a potential promotion, maybe to the Supreme Court? Once Donald Trump came to power, she has done favor after favor after favor for Donald Trump, often abusing her judicial discretion, according to an appeals court that ruled she abused her judicial discretion and did something the law did not allow to the benefit of Donald Trump. But you know what, Brian? Not only does she seem to perhaps be angling for a Supreme Court justice spot, given the latest order she just issued, it seems like she might be angling for yet another title, the Queen of Judicial Snark. Let me read just one sentence of what Judge Aileen Cannon just said in her new order, saying, no one will be seeing Volume 2. She said, quote, "The bare wishes of one attorney general with limited time in office to comply with a non-existent historical practice of releasing special counsel reports in the pendency of criminal proceedings is not a valid reason." I'll tell you, not only is that snarky, but it includes things that have no business being included in a judicial opinion and ruling, like how long an attorney general has remaining, at the Department of Justice. So this is wrong for every conceivable reason.
So at this point, knowing full well that Trump's attorney general, probably Pam Bondi, once she gets confirmed, will never release this report, is the only way that this report would ever be released by way of a FOIA request? Or let me actually amend that, by way of a FOIA request, or is it unlikely that even with a FOIA request that it wouldn't be released because it might be more likely that the Attorney General or the DOJ would actually destroy the report so that it never even sees the light of day?
Yeah, I am hoping that Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, and others have built some safeguards into what they knew was about to happen, which was the Department of Justice was going to fall into potentially nefarious hands if Donald Trump has his way. So I hope they did what they needed to do to make sure they could preserve the evidence in a criminal investigation, which frankly is a requirement in every criminal investigation. But to answer your question about a FOIA request, I think that is not likely to be successful for at least a couple of reasons. One, there is technically a pending case still against De Oliveira and Nauta, albeit it's up on appeal to see whether the appeals court will reverse, they probably will, Judge Cannon's dismissal of the entire case because, Jack Smith really just wasn't appropriately appointed as special counsel, notwithstanding precedent to the contrary. So that's one reason. Anytime there's a pending case, that tends to defeat FOIA requests, Freedom of Information requests that people make to try to wrestle some information out of the federal government. The second reason is I'm sure that Volume 2 is chock full of national security information. Why? Well, Donald Trump stole and unlawfully retained and refused to return classified documents that included some of our nation's most closely guarded secrets, what's characterized and defined as national defense information, which is precisely why Donald Trump was charged under the Espionage Act of the Federal Code. So that's another reason I don't think a FOIA request would be successful. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think Donald Trump's Department of Justice is going to comply with any righteous request that might expose evidence of Donald Trump's crimes to the public. So, I think we are, at least at this point, out of luck with respect to even the congressional leadership of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees getting information that, frankly, they need and deserve.
Glenn, you had mentioned that you hope that Jack Smith did what he needed to do to be able to preserve this. What could that look like in practice, knowing full well that they were out the door and that any documents left at the DOJ would be subject to the whims of what we fully expect will be not just a politicized attorney general, but a fully politicized DOJ in terms of the rank and file as well?
Yeah, he could have put, obviously, copies of the information and a detailed account of all of the evidence in the hands of any number of career DOJ officials. Now, how many of those career DOJ officials will survive the incoming Trump administration, figuratively speaking? I can't say. They also, Jack Smith may have provided a copy of Volume 2 under seal out of the public's view to one or more judges in the federal judiciary, maybe as part of the appeal. I don't know. I have to hope that Jack Smith and the machinery of the Department of Justice has appropriately preserved evidence in a criminal case, which I'll say it again, we as prosecutors are required to preserve all evidence as part of a criminal investigation or prosecution. And frankly, if we don't, we might be violating rules, regulations, or indeed even laws. So I don't know precisely what it might look like, but I hope Jack Smith understands the importance of retaining for institutional reasons the evidence that his grand jury investigations of Donald Trump revealed.
Well, I would hope this would be the last we would speak of Judge Cannon, but I presume to your earlier point that we may be speaking about her at some Supreme Court confirmation hearing at some point in the future. So,
yeah, Brian, I only wish that was comic relief, but I have a sense it might not be.
Yeah. Well, we will, of course, stay on top of this and any other legal issues. For those who are watching right now, if you want to support our work, and as we continue to enter into the Trump administration where there will be no shortage of legal issues to discuss, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on this screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.